We're here with Around Melbourne and Diesel for the launch of his new CD, Saturday Suffering Fools, out now. Hello Diesel, welcome to Around Melbourne TV.
Thanks man, thanks for having me on.
It's been a while, 1996 since the last endeavour of Shoot Cool Ones.
Yeah,
What,
sure.
You reckon you suffered enough of the blues and you had another album in you?
Oh man, you know, I think since I made that record, it was such a great experience. I wanted to make another one pretty much straight away, but you know, those sort of things, you can't always just have what you want straight away. And also I moved to New York after that. Chris Wilson had a baby, and we were supposed to do the Byron Bay Blues Festival that year, but it never happened because he was having a baby and I was over there. So I think those two things, you know, stopped us from touring that record like we probably could have. But you know, we've done a few shows since. I think 12 years later we finally got to do a blues festival down in Narooma, which is quite a well-known blues fest. I'm hoping I'll be able to make another record with Chris one day. This one I really wanted to do like a horns, kind of really slanted towards that sound that I love from the 50s, which was very prominent on most of the Buddy Guy records, to my knowledge, but a lot of King Curtis and that sort of stuff, where it's just all saxes and maybe a trombone, no trumpets generally, just lots of saxes, and it's just a really kind of, yeah, it's just a real wall of sound.
Yeah, because I read somewhere where you said if you do another blues album, you don't want to go where you've been with the guitar and the harmonica and it again. So was the horns idea, was that up front, or you got into it in the studio and you thought, oh, let's go with the horns?
Well, I mean, I started picking the songs, and you know, it was a tape that I still listen to. It's one of Johnny Winter's bus tapes, and it's just proven to be such a well of inspiration. And there was a couple of Buddy Guy tracks on it, which are, you know, Willie Dixon songs, who, you know, you can't sort of walk 2 feet into a room of blues without stumbling over a Willie Dixon song. He was, you know, like the Brahms or Beethoven of blues, you know, the Beatles and the Stones of blues, you know, the amount of songs he wrote was just insane. But this record, I just felt that kind of chess blues sound is where I wanted to go, and yeah, and it just so happens that I've got my dad and my brothers to play horns, and Bernie, who, of course, you know, there's history there with jazz.
Yeah, he's sort of the pivotal point there in the horn section.
Yeah. I mean,
is that just a natural thing when you thought horns? You thought, this is a fellow I've worked with a lot.
Absolutely.
He knows where we're coming from.
Kind of the Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, I suppose, that the kind of playoff that we do together.
It's great to hear that that it's not a manicured album, it's not polished. You know, all the best blues presentations or performances, they're all kind of, they're a bit, you know, they're not tamed, and they sound like they're coming from next door, and, you know, it's raining, and, you know, with all the gadgets in the studio today, I mean, the temptation of technology, do you have to kind of pull back and say, hang on guys, this sounds good, but we're getting away from what we really want to ultimately get to?
Well, I think, you know, that's sort of something that I know it's all there. I know the possibilities of what the technology can do. I know they're there, but I just kind of, I treat it with sort of almost a disrespect. I just treat, you know, recording to a computer, which is how we all sort of do it now. It's just like to treat it like tape, you know. It's like, okay, we're going in to record, well, you know, in this case, you know, space bar, control or whatever, and we're going to record, and it's going to end up and you'll be able to see it as waves on the screen. Yeah, so what? But that's it. We don't like go in there and sort of nitpick it, and you know, I mean, I don't see what the point is, and it's just, you know, the thing that's great about it is, you know, number one, you don't have to deal with reels of tape anymore, and then number two, you can sort of, you know, carry it around on a couple of hard drives, and, you know, in this case, I mix the album at home, so, you know, it's fantastic that I can do that and get the results that I want.
And there's a misconception that better is better, because some of those old tracks you listen to in the blues, the guy's got someone cooking next door, whatever. It's got that. They're making use of what's available, and it somehow gels together to be a unique sound. Whereas you can lose that if you get too clean with it.
Yeah, I don't. At first, it took a bit of an adjustment because I'm used to making records, more separated and everything kind of like pristine, and everything's like in parentheses right, and recorded properly. And when I did this record, even though I've done that sort of style of recording before, it took me a while to kind of get my head around it. The first day was like, it's like you put up. I could hear the guitar in my vocal and the vocal in my guitar, and the bass was in the sax, and everything was bleeding into everything, and I was like, whoa, spill, bleed, all those things that are wrong, and it was like, hang on, no, this is what it's got to be, this is the sound, get used to it, sort of thing, and then, once you sort of adjust to it, you kind of start working with it, and it's like a living organism. You sort of you push that up and you get more of that, and it's this breathing, living thing.
I know that you have different styles of blues there. You've got Chicago blues, you've got all sorts of blues. But what's of particular interest, you've even made reference to colonial convict blues, which would probably make Matt Taylor approve about it. But what is that? What is colonial?
I don't know, it's
like
kind
a colonial boy with mojo?
Well, I guess it's got that little bit of Irish folk in there somewhere, Irish or Scottish or somewhere from the from that side of the world, and it's sort of morphed with it kind of mixed with American sort of blues from which predates back to Africa, and blues is such a universal thing. I was watching a thing on Tunisian music, and the woman that was singing just sounded a different dialect and different inflections, but it could have been. She sounded like Big Mama Thornton.
But how's the show been going since then? You've done a few shows. How's the audience taken the new material?
Well, fantastic. Perth really, dug it, and once we got out of the metro, we went far north into the, some of the red dust towns like Karratha, Dampier, Port Hedland, Derby, Broome. Broome's actually kind of more of a tropical town, but there's still red dirt there, and those people up there, they just, they go off with this type of music. It's real. It's really kind of belongs in that environment almost.
Okay, look, I know you're going to get on stage soon, get ready, get yourself pumped up. Look, from here, you've got Victorian gigs, then you're going off to where?
Yeah, well, we're doing Adelaide, which, I would hope Adelaide loves us because, with this record anyway, because let's face it, like, half of the blues-based, like, AC/DC cultures or the Angels, like, they've got a history of this kind of music, and so I'm hoping they're going to
get a take to it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I kind of only come out when I do a blues record, and obviously there's some people who go, oh, blues, don't like blues. Those people I'm hoping I'm going to, convert, because I think there's this sort of stigma about, blues being sort of just this da 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 da, and then it goes to the next chord, and then it goes back, and it's just this record I've tried to sort of go, hey, blues can actually be really, like make a movie body, and it can be sort of not so stagnant as you might think, because they've got that silly preconception in their head about being boring.
Yeah. Well, you just have to think of the Blues Brothers, right? One of the biggest movies of all time.
Right.
Everybody swings to that.
Well, that
on the dance floor.
That introduced a lot of just middle class or whatever, just white people in general, for want of a better term, to blues music. People can say what they want about Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, but they were just, their intentions were in the right place, and they might not have been the most amazing musicians, but they did it. Yeah. They did it with such passion, and to get all those musicians, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
they were smart enough to realise that they were the personalities, the talent was in it.
And Steve Cropper and
Johnny Hooker, all those guys. Well, look, thanks very much for joining us on Around Melbourne.
Thank you.
Best of luck.